Welcome back, everybody. You know who we are, or if you don't, I'm Kenny. This is DaLana.
Hi.
And this is the Healing Homestead. So, DaLana, one of the last videos she made, she kind of gave you an update on what's been going on around here, and we've been having little projects here and there that have been keeping us busy. And with the winter, obviously things slow down outside, so most of our work has been focused inside or planning what we're going to be doing this next year. But along with that, we have, mostly me though, I've been binge watching this show on the History Channel.
I've watched a few episodes. I like it.
I find it pretty fascinating. It's called Alone. You guys have probably heard of it or seen it, and it's basically a competition where these people are dropped off in a remote wilderness. They have to survive on their own, gather their own food, build their own shelters. The last person out there gets $500,000. And it's, to me, I find it interesting because they will take themselves to the end of themselves. And like some of them are literally starving themselves, and have to medically get pulled because they do wellness checks on some of them. Some of them, they can't handle the solitude, and so they end up tapping out on that. Some of them get injured. I mean, it's honestly, like, I look at it and know that I would struggle, and I've jokingly told her that I would be dead the first morning I woke up and didn't have coffee. And I could last more than a day without coffee. But the reality of how comfortable we are, it kind of makes you thankful for that. And they're doing it. They signed up for it. It's competition, so they understand what they're getting into, but I don't think they ever understood how hard it is to be in a situation like that, and then to feel alone. Like, and they don't just feel alone, like they are alone. They're out there having to deal with nature in some of the worst, I guess not the worst places, but the harshest environments. And it was for me watching it, or why I continue to watch it, is because you see these people shooting for their goals that are like really, they don't really know if they're going to be able to make them or if they're going to be the last one or what, but they're just trying so hard, and they give everything that they have to try to do it. And they plan and they prepare and they do what they can, and then sometimes they get the wind knocked out of them from an unseen situation. And so the episode that I'm on now, or the season that I'm on now, they're bringing back previous contestants who had either gotten taken out medically or for whatever reason tapped out. They're bringing them back, and so it's like these people get that second chance, and I can relate so much to that because you guys probably watched my I guess the story of my unfolding of part of my journey last December, with my criminal history and stuff in the past. It brings up memories and hard times for me that I have to deal with, and it's very random when those memories hit me, and I'm really like, I have to deal with them, and I know that person isn't who I am anymore, but it's still something that I have to, every once in a while, like I said, I have to face it and deal with it. But I understand the excitement of getting that second chance, because that's what I feel like this is for me, in life in general. And then honestly being able to do what we're doing here on this homestead, and me to have a family, have a wife, kids, good job. And my goal now is to be self-sustaining enough to where I can work from home doing this type of stuff, you know, the homesteading, and still be able to provide for my family and even have an abundance to provide for other people. So that's just a correlation with me and Alone. Go check it out if you want to. If not, just, I think it's a cool show, and really that's what got me thinking about that, is that these people, they know that the struggle that they went through the first time was really bad, and they're going for it again because they have a goal that they want to accomplish. And so with that, we as a couple have both had our own obstacles and things that we've had to overcome. You guys, like I said, probably watched that video with me and having to deal with some of that. But now we're going to introduce you, or at least scratch the surface of some things that DaLana herself has had to deal with and work through in her own life. And it's honestly, for me, it's a picture of God's miraculous control of our lives, even when it seems like things are out of control. My life was, in my opinion, bad decisions that led up to a point where they had consequences, and so I had to pay those consequences. And none of us are perfect, but there are some people who choose to do right and do things right, and life still catches them off guard, or just there's the unexplainable things that happen, and it's not because you're like I've heard the saying that why do bad things happen to good people, and it's just when you look at it in the perspective from God's view, we're all broken people, and we need Him, and that's really what it's about. The world's broken, we're broken, and so our story together and the unfolding of our journey is just how, honestly, two totally different people, different walks of life, and broken people, honestly, in our own strength, God can make that new and bring about good. And so I hope this encourages you guys as we start to dig into this. And this is something that was laid on my heart a while back that I felt like I needed to, and both of us really, but I needed to share my testimony and be vulnerable so that people that are watching can understand that they're not alone. We're all uniquely different, and we all have our own different struggles, but you don't really know until you get to know someone else and their story, how sometimes those similarities and things or your testimony can help someone else that may be in a similar situation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you guys know DaLana, and we have been married almost 10 years.
We have been married 10 years.
Over 10 years. Okay, my math's not great. Yes. We've been married 10 years, and so Megan and Tyler are not biologically my kids. They are my kids, and so lucky to have them as my kids. They're incredible kids. But we'll kind of backtrack, and like this homesteading life was not something that I grew up having a dream of, but
he didn't
DaLana,
even want it when we were first married.
But when did you start this journey of feeling like this is something that you wanted?
I think since I was a kid, I don't know that I was like, oh, I want to homestead and that's like my life goal, but I always wanted to live in the country and wanted to homestead, I guess, as part of my life. Since I was little, my grandparents had a small farm, and they had, a garden and some cattle on there and a pond, and we'd go fishing, and my grandpa would squirrel hunt, and I don't know. I mean, I grew up helping and learning to can and stuff like that at my grandparents' place, and some of my happiest childhood memories happened out there in just a few years. It's not like they were living there, forever or anything, but it brought back a lot of good memories.
And so you didn't start out living in the country doing this. You would go visit grandparents who had...
Yeah, we lived in the city for years, and we moved a lot, but in the city, and then moved to a small town. My family did move to, I think it was 3 acres.
Okay.
Um,
That's enough. That's
yeah,
enough to
3
do what we
acres.
do. I mean,
Yeah, I think I was 10, maybe 10 or 11 when we first moved out there, and I loved it. We had a little bit of a vegetable garden, but there was already established flower gardens and orchard and all of that when we moved there, and I took over the flower gardens, or a big portion of it, and I just loved it out there, and loved all the gardening. And we had some chickens, and
so you had a
nothing
little
big,
taste
but a
of
little
it.
bit, yeah.
Okay, so those seeds got planted at a younger age for her. And
Yeah.
like she said, even when we first got married, we actually owned 5 acres right up the road from where we're at now. And she was like, hey, we could always get goats to help with the grass. And I might have said this on a previous video, but I said, I am not going to be a goat farmer. I was like, no. And and here we go.
Don't tell God
fast
what you're
forward.
not gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
having
agree.
chickens either.
I think when you make those agreements that aren't in God's plan for you, then you understand later on that, hey, I maybe shouldn't have said what I was going to say because I didn't know what God had in store for me. But so this was probably like preteen years you kind of had this started. And so tell us a little bit about you and Matt, when you guys met and how that kind of started.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I was married before, and I married my childhood sweetheart. So we'd known each other since I was 8 or 9. And I knew at 13 years old that I wanted to marry him, and we kind of grew up together. We were homeschooled together, met in the homeschool group, and so that just if you didn't know, I was married before. So what was the question? When did we meet? Or
no, just kind of your story. So you guys you met when you were young, and then
we got married young.
Okay.
Yeah, we knew really early on we wanted to get married. We were together for several years, and then got married young. Like 1.5 years later, we had our first child, Megan. And actually, before we got married, we had bought 40 acres. He had started a business, and we were also both working to kind of make ends meet and build a house. And so we had built an outbuilding. We were going to do a whole barn dominium, and this was like 20 years ago, before it was even cool. So we started that whole process when Megan was still a baby when we were getting ready to start finishing out the building, and then felt like God was calling him into the military. He wanted to join, and it was after 9/11, and I think most young men wanted to join around then, honestly. We got married just 6 months before 9/11, and so he ended up joining, and we stepped out in faith and sold everything. So we were going after that dream, but when you feel like the Lord is leading, the next steps are obedience. And so we wanted God's dream for us. And so we sold everything. We sold the business, we sold the land, and he joined the military. And honestly, I love the military life. It wasn't the homestead life. It wasn't, exactly what I had envisioned, but I knew that the dream was still a possibility. And so wherever we were stationed, we would, North Carolina, I think I started my first vegetable garden on my own. And when we were stationed in Alabama, I did even more of that and learned how to get really good at making homemade bread. And then we moved to New York, and we lived in a Mennonite kind of community. And so I got milk, and they taught me how to make cheese and yogurt and stuff. And so just over the years continued to practice those skills and learn new skills along the way, because I thought, eventually he'll get out and we'll be able to go back to that. Then felt like the Lord was calling us to a career in the military, so we decided to stay in. And we're looking at a more, eventually a more permanent, being able to stay in one place and get land there. But until then, doing gardens, doing all of that stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was always still a possibility, and or eventually retiring and being able to do it then. So.
And you guys got pregnant with Tyler after you guys had joined.
Yes, it was his first tour in Iraq. He had already left for Iraq, and I found out I was pregnant after he left. So, and he got home 10 days. I think it was 10 days before Tyler was born.
Right on time.
Yeah. We weren't sure that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you had Megan, she was young, and you guys just had Tyler. Mm-hmm. Everything's launching you into this military career, and
yeah. And we got stationed up in New York, and we decided we're going to be there for a while. He was a warrant officer at this point. Before, he was infantry and a paratrooper, and then he became a helicopter pilot. And so, officers and warrant officers are typically stationed a little bit longer. So we were like, okay, we're going to buy a house. So we bought a very scary looking house. Not as scary as this place, but still scary. And it was like a 110-year-old Victorian. The last time it had been redecorated was in the 70s. So we had lots of paneling, lots of shag carpet. And we went through and restored the house. We were working on restoring all of it ourselves. And so a lot of learning there. But then he got deployed. For his second deployment, he went to Iraq again. And so I was busy homeschooling the kids and remodeling the home myself. But 3 months into the deployment, I guess that would be 14 years ago. Wow. 14 years ago, this month, I woke up to 2 men in uniform at my door, telling me he wasn't coming home. So our world changed overnight, and every dream I had, I felt like died that day, because every dream included him. And yeah, so
complete shift too. It was like your trajectory is going into the military, career in the military, life with Matt and your 2 kids, and you don't know where that ends from there, because your guys' future is, you're planning ahead for where you're going, and then tragedy happened, the brokenness in this world flipped your life upside down. And I know that because I know we've talked. For those of you who don't know, if you have a spouse in the military and then they're no longer in the military, you are no longer in the military. So that shift happened. So it was kind of like you went from being a military family wife, now you're kind of, I can't say rejected, but you were no longer.
Yeah, I definitely never felt rejected, but I didn't fit into civilian world. I think, most widows I knew were older, and I was 24 years old. And, a blessing in disguise was that along with my late husband, 3 other men were also killed with him, and I did walk widowhood with their 3 wives, and that was a blessing in disguise, just having somebody else to walk it with who wasn't,
Right.
But it was a situation where we were civilians, like I was kind of thrown into civilian life again, and I didn't quite fit in there. And I didn't really fit in the military anymore either. I mean, as wonderful as his unit was, and those guys still keep in contact with me and the kids, and I'm so thankful. But I was very aware that I was a constant reminder, especially to the wives, of what could happen. And so that, it was just, it was a rough season, and I was young. Yeah. I was so young. I was 24.
We're still young, babe.
Yes, we are, but I was a baby.
Yeah. No, and that's true. And honestly, like, when I first met DaLana, I remember her being so impressed with, like, I guess, the stuff that I had been through. Mm-hmm. And I look at them, DaLana and Megan and Tyler, and you guys don't see that when you just see them out in public, or if you see them in passing. You don't know them, that they've been through some stuff. And I don't know how you guys coped. And I mean, I guess that's kind of, you had a little bit of support with the other widows, or at least people that you could relate to in that, that they lost their husbands along with you. And I know some of them have kids with those men that passed on. And so at that time, you probably felt like, my dreams are shattered. Everything is over with. Yeah.
I ended up, we were living in New York at the time, and hold that thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so where were we at?
Just about how your dreams had been shattered, and then you got Megan and Tyler. So.
Yeah, I was 24, and Megan and Tyler were, 6 and 4. And I ended up moving back to Missouri because, Matt and I's families are both here, and still are here. And I wanted the kids to know their families. And not that it was an easy journey, but having that support made a huge difference. They kind of stepped in and were there for me and the kids when, I really honestly, I just wanted to crawl in the grave with him. And that wasn't really an option when you have kids. So
and you had a relationship with God.
I did, and I'll tell you what, it was, my faith was shaken big time. I still loved the Lord and wasn't even angry with the Lord. I was just angry. I was sad, and I kind of, no one taught me this. It wasn't like a false teaching or anything, but I kind of equated as a kid. I started following the Lord when I was young, Matt and I both. And this whole idea of if you make the right choices and you live the right way, and like we started our marriage the right way, and God was at the center of it, and we risked everything to follow the Lord. And then for me to lose all of that, my faith was shaken, and I did doubt God's goodness for years. Thankfully, I may have stopped pursuing him, but he didn't stop pursuing me.
Amen to that.
So I'm so thankful. And now I see Oh gosh, now I look back and
Okay, because we met
I was
like
28.
10
so
and a
4
half
years later.
10 and a half years ago. We met, and she has a memory of meeting me was it at church? Or was it at my parents' house?
No, it was at church.
Church. So, guys,
If you want a spouse,
if you're
go to
single,
church.
and you want a good wife, go to church. But, and at this time when we met, I don't think either one of us were looking for a relationship. I honestly got to hanging out with Tyler, our son now, but he was just a cool kid that was like, hey, why don't you come over and play Xbox with me? And I'm so thankful, Tyler. Thank you for letting me come and roast
I was really
GoldenEye.
close. I was close with Kenny's dad and stepmom, Chris and Melissa, and they live next door now. But I was close with them as, a single mom. Like a year before Kenny and I ever met. I didn't know you for a long time. I knew about you.
Yeah, I was not doing good
No.
when...
It's interesting because you weren't doing good then. But because I knew them and I knew a little bit of what was going on, I had started praying for him for like a year before we ever met. Not ever knowing you'd be my husband.
Yeah.
But did not see that one coming.
At that time,
At all.
there's no way.
No.
But when we first met, it was new for me being a husband and everything. And we've been through a lot. A decade will stretch it. But then when you bring me into this equation where I've done a whole lot of bad decision making most of my life, paid consequences for it,
and you hadn't been in your sobriety.
Well, no, and God, had began a work in me, and I'm still being worked on, but began a work in me that was changing my heart and my mind. And when we met, I just felt like God was calling me, and we didn't wait very long. We met, and 6 weeks later, I had proposed to her, and she said yes.
No, 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
And it was like 8 days later.
Yeah, I've told our kids, I was like, hey, that we're not the best example for marriage advice, but honestly, I felt like God was calling me to her because I had specific prayers that I had prayed, and I said, hey, God, I don't know if I can have kids because I've had cancer before and had chemotherapy and just didn't know if it was even a possibility. And I was like, God, I need a wife that's gonna love me and be faithful to me and that has kids that will love me as their dad. And that was something that these prayers that I was praying was starting to get answered very, very specifically. And it was with DaLana and Tyler. Like, I know we were playing Xbox one night and he was just like, can you just stay? Like, you're really, really cool. I wish you could be my dad. And honestly, it like ripped the heart out of my chest and made me like totally rethink, like, oh my gosh, God, are you like setting me up in this situation to come in and like be a dad here and to ask this? Because she didn't even think I had liked her at that point. It's really kind of funny.
We never even said I was pretty. We never, there was nothing. No flirting, no.
And since my dad knew her before, it's a really funny story, but my dad knew her for a while before we ever met, and I became friends with Tyler and then eventually fell in love with her and, asked her to marry me. After we got married, I called my dad and said, hey, Dad, and I think he was half asleep. I was like, hey, I just married DaLana. We just got married. And he hung up on me. He told me, he's like, oh, whatever, liar. And I think he said something else. But it was just funny to, and I guess it wasn't funny. It was very eye-opening and cool to me to see how God was working and putting things together, because not only did I have specific prayers answered, DaLana had some very, very specific prayers. And we can get into that.
Maybe another time.
Yeah, another one.
We've got.
But, so now, here we are, fast forward, we married 10 years later. We're kind of doing what you had not only dreamed about doing as a child or as a young girl, and even into your young adulthood, but those little things you were picking up along the way on making bread, learning from the Mennonites, and making your own yogurt.
Yes.
These little things you were doing along the way, not knowing all the stuff that was going to happen in between, you felt a prompting to do, and now here we are, we're doing this, and this is like, I don't know if there's a more critical time than now, it seems like, to know how to do things for yourself and learn these things, and we're learning, and I mean, we feel like we're just barely scratching the surface of where we need to be.
So much still to learn.
But we feel God's blessing on it too, and that we're not only being blessed, but we're able to bless other people. And so now, how does that feel, I guess, having your dreams, I guess, brought back to life?
Yeah, I mean, I really felt like it was a dream that died. And even when we first got married, I never saw that as a possibility.
It wasn't in my mind. Now I'm all in. I'm telling you what, I love this life.
Like inner city.
I did, and it honestly got the best of me.
So I mean, you know, we had. I got you out to the country, but you didn't like it. You know, you didn't want to do any of the country stuff. So.
Okay, so we just had kids come in, so a little interruption. What were you doing outside?
We were shaking trees and my hands almost got frozen.
There's snow on the trees.
We got a couple inches of snow last night, and so they were outside.
I had snow on my hair. And I had white hair.
Okay.
Okay, we're back.
Got some editing to do.
Okay, so, like when you were out in the country, you liked the country, the peacefulness, but you didn't want to do the country stuff. So, then we moved to Florida, and we had a little yard, and I just decided to grow absolutely everything I could. We had coconuts and pineapples and
Florida, you can grow
papayas
everything, and you don't even really have to try.
Yes, that's true.
Very easy.
But it was a completely different growing season, so that was new to me. But I learned a lot through that, and I just learned some more skills along the way. Different, you know, cooking from scratch and different things.
She's a learner. You know what she wants? She's very easy for like holidays and Christmases. She wants books.
I want books.
Books on how to do everything. And honestly, it's saved us a ton, and so I'm thankful for that. But the cool part about seeing this is like, we knew where we were at before we met, both of us. We saw how this, I don't know, like this convergence or this meshing when God brought us together, and now we are being made into that one where we both have the same mind, we're both on the same track. We have,
well, yeah, and what's really cool about that is it's not like I had to pull you into this kicking and screaming or anything like that. You know, wherever we were at, I would do what I could, whether it was growing vegetables in the backyard flower garden or whatever. And you kind of got involved over time, usually through, hey, your garden needs weeded. or he would go and tell me something.
Well, I learned more here recently, or in the last few years. We did a marriage reboot and learned something about myself that I didn't really see as clearly until that moment, but it was that I want to be a provider. I want to provide and work and do for my family, and I think I do that very well, but I didn't see that I could be doing anything. Like, that doesn't mean I have to go have a job and work 9 to 5, that if I'm working and I'm providing and it's for my family and I'm home, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Even if it's something that I did never see myself doing, like goat farming, chicken, processing or anything like that. But the more I get into this stuff, I have a ton of respect for our ancestors that did this without the machinery and state-of-the-art things that we have now, and just how they survive day to day, and they did it, and it brings me back to that, and I'm like, man, I want to learn it, so
well,
I'm
I gotta
eager
say
to.
something here though, like with everything that I've been through, and a lot of times sacrificing my dream for, you know, the dream, or for my spouse, or, you know, for the kids, or, you know, having someone alongside of you. Like, I remember you told me once, you're like, my dream is to make your dreams come true. And I had never experienced that before. And that kind of began to awaken some old dreams in me that I thought had died. And so it's meant a lot that even though this hasn't been his dream, it's been his dream to make my dream come true. And I think then it's kind of become your dream.
Oh yeah.
Through it, and you actually love it now.
No, and I honestly get to live out my dream every day when I get to see my kids. I didn't know that I was going to get to have kids of my own, and when I had the opportunity to parent and be a father figure to Megan and Tyler, that was fulfilling enough for me. And since then, there's been an overflowing of blessings, and I can only attribute them to God. I mean, of course, we have a part in having our kids, but it was God pouring that blessing out. And so now it's like, I've got 5 kids that love me, adore me, and I can't say how blessed I am to have them. And so yeah, I want to do everything that I can to provide for them and give them all that they could for me. And it's just, I feel like that's my spiritual role, to lay down my life, you know, for you guys. You know, it's just like Christ loves the church. But he
very much has. Like,
and
he
so,
has
but I enjoy this stuff too. And we don't always see eye to eye, and we don't do things perfect. So don't think that we are sitting here saying, you know, but
not even close. And we've had many rough years.
Yeah, but
our relationship, with parenting, lots of failures.
Oh yeah, learning new ways of living together. Oh gosh,
lots of failures. Still failing, but failing and daring to dream more and do more and learn along the way.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what this is about. Like, we're sharing what we've been through and what we've, I guess, overcome and gone through, to hopefully encourage you in your walk, that you're not alone. Like those people on that show, you're not alone, you're not isolated, you have people around you, you have a community, and sometimes it's just tapping in. And even if it's something that you don't see happening right now or soon, you don't know what the future holds. You don't know if it's going to be $5 a dozen for eggs at the cheapest store you can find. You don't know what's going to happen with the economy and all that. And I guess to just be on that common ground, and it's like, I know there's people watching this that have been through those devastating moments in their life where their life was heading in a direction and then it got turned upside down. Sorry, I had to go silence the kiddos. You'll probably edit that out anyways. But yeah,
a lot of editing.
Yeah, and it's like we don't know what our future holds. And it's like our son Tyler, it's something that I've kind of looked at with him. He had his focus. He lost his dad in the military. And honestly, I know that was heart-wrenching for you when both of them were looking like they were wanting to sign up for the military. And for me, I wanted to see them to have the desires of their heart, but at the same time,
I was excited for them.
We both were.
So excited for and so proud of them for wanting to serve their country. But having been through what I've been through, it was hard. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, when someone feels like they hear God's call on their life to do something, and it's like, it's something that you may not agree with, and they're our kids, we love them, we want to protect them and do everything, but we want them to live their life too. It's like, yes, Tyler felt the call of God on his life, he went and gave his all. And you know the video that she sent when she had to go down to Texas, like he drowned. Like he was literally in a situation where his life was at risk. And even after that, he was still willing to try to do what he could to stay in the military. It's not an option now. They're medically discharging him, but it's like that devastation, that reaching for a goal to try to achieve it and then having that door closed or having things completely change. It can leave people stuck. It can leave people in a hopeless, helpless state of mind, and that's not who we're meant to be. And we've been
God
through.
Designed us to be overcomers.
Yeah, we have to overcome. I mean, and if you can't do it for you, do it for your kids. But you can do this. We've been through stuff, and I didn't know that I was going to have kids to live a life of sacrifice for, an amazing wife to do that. But I'm so thankful that I have walked through what I've went through to be where I'm at now, and I can say that God is using our worst. And I've heard DaLana said it a lot, there's never a tear wasted, and he can use it all. And so I guess this is just an encouraging video, kind of just introducing more of our story, our testimony, showing God's grace, God's love, and how he has it all. You may not see it. I know we never did see how this could have worked out and how we could be where we're at now, but we're able and in a position now to help other people because we had little steps of obedience that we did. But just know that we love you guys. We know that some of you that comment on our videos have been through your own places of devastation or broken dreams, and that we're here with you guys. We've been through some stuff too, and we love you guys. We'll pray for you if you reach out to us and you need prayer. Don't hesitate. But we thank you guys for praying for us also in those times when we've reached out. And that's what it's about. We're trying to build a community. We're trying to grow with each other here, but also to try to bring people along that are like-minded and want to learn maybe something that we have to give. And there's more stuff to come on that. DaLana's had some things that are rising up in her heart that may help ignite this type of interest in other people. And so we're going to keep working. We're going to keep working on the house. We're working on planning out our next chicken breed that we're going to be getting, our garden set up.
Just ordered them today.
Yeah.
So we ordered some buff Orpingtons and
They better be buff is all I got to say.
Cochins? Is that how you say it? Cochins? I don't know.
They're going to be a little bit meatier than the birds that we have now. But I know one of the last videos I thought I killed all of our chickens. And we didn't. So they're still alive. They're kicking and they're actually starting to give us eggs. Which in a time like this, it's definitely needed. But until next time, this is Kenny and DaLana from the Healing Homestead. We appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, share, and we're going to be continuing on and hanging in there. So keep overcoming. We love you guys. Bye.
Bye.